192. Let's get to Bumblebee. Came out in 2018, 1 year after The Last Night. It's directed by Travis Knight, who is the CEO of Leica Studios, the animation studio who did Coraline, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, etc. Great studio. It stars Haley Steinfeld, Jorge Lindenborg Jr., John Cena, Pamela Adlon, and the synopsis is: on the run in the year 1987, Bumblebee finds refuge in a junkyard in a small California beach town. On the cusp of turning 18 and trying to find her place in the world, Charlie Watson discovers Bumblebee, battle-scarred and broken. So I remember when this one was announced, and I was very happy to see that because I was like, all right, cool, a different vision, a different style. Not only that, but I thought the origin, really, I guess you could say, Bumblebee and how he got to Earth. I love all that. Them sort of just randomly choosing Travis Knight, who I loved all of the Leica Studios films. And I was like, all right, cool. I wouldn't have thought of him to do this, but why not? And I realized rewatching this, I don't think I had actually gone all the way through it since I had seen it in the theaters. So it had been a long time. Even when I first saw it, I really enjoyed it. And now having had just one more Transformers film since, this is still by far my favorite. It was at the time, and it still is. Biggest thing though, even though there are things I like about Michael Bay, as I've talked about, this movie feels like it was made by an actual person. And that sounds kind of mean, and I know that there's a time and place for the Bay ones, and something that works for me and I have fun with, but this movie, it's charming, it's fun, it's got character. It's not the style of Michael Bay where even the quietest, most mundane scene is, look at me, I'm Michael Bay. It's very restrained and creating a very well-rounded world. And even though the action is good and it's got blockbuster elements, in the best way, it feels very Spielbergian, because especially the relationship between Haley Steinfeld and Bumblebee is very E.T.-esque, but in a really good way. It doesn't feel like a ripoff of that. I understand that this is a very different kind of movie than what they're doing with the main franchise, but what I love about this, and it comes through direction, it comes through the effects, and just the overall story itself too. The movie is called Bumblebee, and with all the right elements together, he feels like an actual character. Whereas in the main 5 films, he always felt very distant. They felt in their own little world because we're following the human characters, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But from the moment we see Bumblebee, especially when he crashes on Earth, how they shoot him in terms of his reactions to being shot at, the interactions with people, with other Transformers, whether or not he's speaking. And I like how they reveal how he lost his voice box. That's very clever. But I was immediately engaged with him. And I felt like, okay, it wasn't, here's his Autobot way in the background. And I thought that was so well done. And it's a very touching character. At least I was immediately caring for him and wanting to see where things went, even though it follows a very conventional format. There's nothing groundbreaking, reinventing the wheel here. It's just playing within a convention, within a genre, but doing it really well. And I love that. I think that coming off of the 5 films, it's easy to be like, this is so bland, it's so vanilla. But really, if you look at the character work, it's really strong. And I could care less about the plot. Like, I don't really care about plots in any movies. And maybe that's why some people don't like this one as much, because it's so simple. I don't care if it's complex or simple. The character work is what I'm there for, 9 times out of 10 with any kind of movie. Talking some specifics, though, right from the get-go, I love the look of Cybertron that has that mostly yellow hue to it and that yellow underbelly. I really like how it looks there, and that opening fight is very good. Haley Steinfeld, who I first saw in her big breakout, which was True Grit, I haven't followed everything that she's done, but I'm always happy to see her in a movie, and I think she has good range. And I thought her casting was perfect. I think she works well with human characters, but also in whatever way they did it to have her actually looking at something or just talking into thin air at a green screen. She played off Bumblebee, quote unquote, incredibly well. And with this being set in the 80s, it's very easy for the rebellious, loner, outcast teenager to feel very goofy and like a caricature. But I thought her character was very, very compelling and fun and relatable. Not only that, but I totally bought her more as a mechanic, black thumb sort of person as opposed to Megan Fox. Whereas, respectfully, I did not buy her for a single second being this car, truck aficionado, like can fix anything, auto shop worker. Did not buy that for a moment. I felt like that was a Michael Bay dream girl sort of thing. Whereas in this, she felt authentic. And I could buy her kind of being into the vintage stuff, the unconventional things, not always having the most sense, but still having a knack for it. And then also what allowed for more development there as opposed to Megan Fox, which had nothing. We learn about in this Haley Steinfeld's father dying in whatever way, and therefore us learning that that's where she got her mechanical skills from. And that's one of the many reasons why she misses him so much. And then you see the rest of the family with this stepdad getting along fine and the younger brother connecting with them very easily where she doesn't. I think it's all, it's very standard stuff, but I was never once thinking, oh, this is so cheesy, it's so lame, like seen this before, which I have. Everybody has, but it works. John Cena has a big part in this. He plays the sort of villain in this, more so just an antagonist, because he's mainly just doing his job, whereas there are the bad Transformers in the story as well. But I like him. He's not an amazing actor, but he's got a decent presence. I think he has all right comedic chops, so I have no problems with him. I think if anyone has not seen a Transformers film, this is a good one to start with, because the Michael Bay ones are so out there that it would be harder to immediately connect with if you weren't already a Michael Bay fan and or a big action blockbuster person. I think that this is one that most people could get into. It's hard to really hate. Some other things, the editing is very clean, like the transitions from whether it be Cybertron to Earth or whatever it might be, very clever, creative transitions that I notice a lot on this watch. And it looks very good overall, cinematography wise, lighting. Some action sequences, the one where Bumblebee lands on Earth and he encounters John Cena's special agent government group, and then where Bumblebee runs away and there's that whole chase and then eventual fight with one of the bad Transformers. The chase or car chase through the tunnel where there's that, to me, it was a Men in Black homage where Bumblebee goes on the ceiling of the tunnel. I think that was pretty clever. When Bumblebee is in the house and just causing destruction purely by accident, and that's what really feels a lot like E.T. The prank that they pull on the bully at school, the girl. The beach sequence where she's trying to teach Bumblebee how to hide. The sequence out in the woods where she's inspecting his malfunction or missing voice box. Like, there are so many quiet scenes that you would never ever have in a Michael Bay Transformers film that allow you to sit with those characters, get to know them, even just get to learn their quirks and facial expressions. As silly as that sounds, you just never really get a chance to ground yourself with someone, to me, in the Michael Bay ones. Whereas in this, it was such a breath of fresh air after having watched those 5. I was like, wow, this is what a true movie feels like, who actually has a sense of narrative, who cares. about the story. It's not here, I'm putting my style in Transformers or on this or on that. It's all right, I'm a storyteller. How can I find a way to create the best, most well rounded picture of this situation, of this story? And I hope Travis Knight does a lot more films like this because I think he is, having come from animation, I think he is a perfect person to direct films like this. Besides that, the soundtrack is good. A lot of somewhat popular, but not exactly what you would expect 80s radio choices. I like those a lot. The score is good. It's not too long. The third act, I think, is still decent. It's, as with most films, it's my least favorite part, but no real problems with that. So I'm a big fan of this movie. I wish it had done better financially, so maybe we will get more films in this nature, or maybe even a sequel in some way, because it is in its own little world. But I would highly recommend it. Whether you're a Transformers head or not, I would still give it a look. I think you'd be surprised. Give it a rewatch. It's a good time. Love Bumblebee. That one is a 4.5 out of 5.